We are here with Stephen Balzac. He's from the company 7 Steps Ahead. He is a consultant, particularly in human resources and organizational development, and was a speaker at ERE's Spring Expo here in San Diego. And we've been talking, Steve and I, about, by the way, I also want to mention, he's written some great articles for our Journal of Corporate Recruiting Leadership. I can send to anyone who's interested. Fantastic articles about leadership and selecting employees and some other topics for our publication that goes out to recruiting leaders. And anyhow, today Steve and I have been talking about what you can learn and what companies are not currently learning from employees that don't work out. What can you learn from, I guess, bad hires? Tell us a little bit more about that, Stephen.
Happy to. So there's 2 ways in which hiring can go bad. You can not get the person you wanted, or you can find you've hired the person who looks great on paper, but just simply doesn't work out when you get them into the office. And the important thing is to have a system in place by which you're handling your hiring. Mm-hmm. And it has to be a very well-designed, very coherent system, because when something goes wrong, that mistake is feedback. It's telling you that the system failed at some point.
Okay, and what do you do?
Well, so you have to look at what happened. Let's suppose that you had a great candidate, and you made the offer, and they don't accept it. Well, there's always the fact that, when we're dealing with human beings and human systems, there's going to be some amount of it just doesn't work. But still, we can look at it. We can understand what happened. During the interview process, was that person made to feel part of the company, part of the culture, part of the group? Did they feel at home right from the beginning? Or was that left to the very end? If it was left to the very end, well, then maybe you lost them because somebody else made them feel at home right away.
Are companies, in your mind, from all the consulting you've done, are they doing this? Are they analyzing the why when employees don't work out?
What I see a lot of is that companies view mistakes as, oh my, we've made this big mistake. And instead of trying to do something, instead of trying to learn from it, and instead of trying to take advantage of this as an opportunity to improve their systems, well, first of all, they don't have the system well defined in some cases. In which case, they can't learn from it because they can't go back and figure out where the system failed. It's too amorphous. What you also see in that is that people are afraid to trust the system. They don't use it. They're afraid to hire because they're so afraid of hiring the wrong person, because they feel the mistake would reflect on them personally instead of on the system that they're using.
But in the end, it's a poor process, not so much like one person making one mistake.
Right. In the end, if you've built a process, then the process might succeed or it might fail, but the process is always fixable. The process can always be improved. If you don't have a process, if you make it the fault of somebody, if you say, oh, somebody didn't do it right, well, you can't really fix that because nobody wants to be the person who didn't do it right, so immediately you get a lot of finger pointing or trying to duck blame. You see that a lot when you have hiring by committee in a company where you have more and more people get drawn into the process till 20 or 30 people and you're interviewing some candidate. And because that way, if you hire the wrong person, it's nobody's fault, right?
Right.
Everyone was everyone was not involved, essentially.
Is there one thing that you would say you see most commonly messed up during the process? Is it interviews? Is it poor assessments or the lack of assessment, too many assessments? Is it poor screening? Is it the job description, the job ad? Is it the onboarding? Is there one thing that's the most common mistake?
I would say, I think interviewing is one of the things that people rely on it the most but prepare for it the least. Interviewing is actually one of the least effective ways to determine if someone is a good fit. And yet we depend on it a tremendous amount. Now, it can be improved tremendously if you train people to be good interviewers, but that's rarely done. In one case, the person who came in who was conducting the interview spent the whole time reading email and said to a candidate, "We multitask here." This does not create a good vision of the company.
I've talked to some people who seem to have been trained in interviewing, or they seem to have trained others, but it strikes me that when the interview ends, their reaction is usually, I like her, I don't like her. It's usually that, they may have good intentions, but in the end it seems to come down to, you like them or you don't like her. It doesn't come down to any more methodical kind of decision.
Well, again, if interview training is done in isolation, if it's done without any framework around it, without any sense of what is it you're trying to find out, then what else are you going to have?
Yeah.
I like them, I don't like them.
Yeah.
If you have actually done the work to figure out what your candidates should look like, what are the characteristics of people who are successful in your company? What do they look like? How do they act? What is it that gets them excited? One of the things that I see where this process breaks down is right at the beginning, where you walk into a company, someone walks into a company and says, what's the company all about? And nobody can really give a clear, coherent answer. You think about Microsoft in the 1990s. If you ask, what's this company all about? Putting a PC on every desktop. You go into Google, what's this company all about? Organizing all the world's information.
Yeah.
You go into some other company, what's this all about? Making money.
Yeah. I also think there are a lot of companies who, they know what they're about, but they haven't made that mission inspiring enough. They say, we're about printing paper, which is fine, but they're not about something. But there are a lot more exciting things that they really are doing. They're helping people read books to their children, or they're helping people enjoy a magazine at the beach. I mean, you could showcase those kinds of things for employees, I think, instead of just saying, well, we print paper.
Right. They've confused the mechanical process of what they do, printing paper,
Yeah.
with the difference they're making in the world.
Yeah.
A company that is printing books so that people can read to children or to disadvantaged children, or to go and teach people how to read, well, that's a great mission. And if you talk about that, and you talk about what you're doing for people and the difference you're making in the world, that's exciting.
Yeah. On that, thank you, Steve. I think we've just brought up probably a half dozen topics we could talk about another day, so we'll have to get together at some point and do that again. So Stephen Balzac, thank you, and we will catch up with you again soon, and we're going to do this again. Thanks.
You're welcome. My pleasure.